Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Pariyantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. Good. Be seated, please. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahavidyan Karava Vahai Tejasvi Navadhitamastu Ma Vidvisha Vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Very good. Welcome back. Welcome also to the many students who are attending these classes online. We continue today with our study of this. Which chapter? This is chapter 18, which includes of the Uddhava Gita. And chapter 18 is well known for including a section called Bhikshu Gita, and that's the section we're going to see today. Sometimes the entire chapter 18 is called Bhikshu Gita, but Gita literally means the song or the teachings of the bhikshu. So we haven't heard from the bhikshu yet, have we? It's been Sri Krishna's narration of this Brahmana from Avanti, who was very miserly and very obnoxious and alienated everyone around him. Do you know anyone like that? Not uncommon, right? Someone with a particularly obnoxious personality. They alienate people around them, and then they say, no one likes me. Because they failing to recognize that the problem is here. Anyway, you know someone like that. This Brahmana became deeply, deeply depressed, and he created a huge hole of depression, metaphorically, for himself. And while he was sitting in his hole of depression, he had plenty of time to think. And fortunately, his thinking led him to start climbing out of that hole of depression. He sought out a guru, underwent proper teachings under the guidance of that guru. He became a sannyasi, a Hindu monk, called bhikshu also. Bhikshu is one who lives on alms, bhiksha. And he became enlightened with the help of the guru's teachings. So the newly enlightened sannyasi, or bhikshu then, goes wandering from village to village, collecting alms. That's how they survive, how they sustain themselves. And he came into one particular village. Most villages will, respond very nicely. And he's, new sannyasi has come into the village, and people will be excited to see this person. But he came into one village in particular where he was not welcomed. The people in this particular village must, for whatever reason, they had a very negative view of such bhikshus as this fellow, and they mistreated him horribly. They took away his staff and his water pot, his begging bowl. They called him names. They tried to make him go away, and he didn't. Very unusual. Actually, we'll see that in the verse. This bhikshu, usually when people act in very, very rough ways, most people would feel threatened and leave immediately. This bhikshu didn't feel threatened. Very unusual. He just saw, in fact, he must have been thinking, what's wrong with all these people? Instead of feeling hurt by their mistreatment of him, instead of feeling angry because they took his staff and his kamandulu, instead of having these negative reactions, he must have been thinking, what's wrong with these people? What happened here? What happened in this village to make these people be so negative towards sannyasis? So this is where this is where the Bhikshu Gita is about to begin. We now hear, actually we've got one more verse, and then we will hear the words of the bhikshu who now reflects on this situation. But Sri Krishna introduces, remember all of this is being taught by Sri Krishna to Uddhava, and the Bhikshu Gita is introduced by this particular verse. Paribhuta hi mam gatam, paribhuta hi mam gatam, agayata naradhamaihi, agayata naradhamaihi, patayadbhih swadharmastho, patayadbhih swadharmastho, dhritamastaya satvakim, dhritamastaya satvakim. So, paribhuta, having been literally overcome, having been mistreated by whom? In the second line, nara adhamaihi, by all these lowly people, by all these cruel, nasty people. So having been tormented by all these nasty people, imam gatam, this gata. Gata is also a word for song or poem. Imam gatam, this song, this poem, agayata. Literally, he sang. Of course, he's not singing. The term gata or song or Gita is used because a poetic, something that you might find helpful to know. The word Gita, as in Uddhava Gita or as in Bhagavad Gita, the word Gita here actually has a technical meaning. Common meaning, of course, you know. The technical meaning is this: a poetic section of spiritual teachings excerpted from a larger scripture. That's a nice description. I'll say that one more time. The technical definition of a Gita is a poetic teaching which has been excerpted from a larger scripture. So Bhagavad Gita, Uddhava Gita, now Bhikshu Gita. So what about this sadhu, this bhikshu? Patayadbihi, even though he was paribhuta, you have to connect the word up above, swadharmastaha, he remained established in his dharma. By the way, the main dharma for a sannyasi is ahimsa, cause no harm. So for that sannyasi, for that bhikshu, notice he didn't retaliate. We saw in the prior verses, in the prior classes. He didn't even retaliate verbally. He didn't try to get back his staff and his kamandulu. He didn't retaliate verbally. He just let it happen. He was swadharmastaha, established in his practice of ahimsa, even though he was so badly mistreated, patayadbihi, by those who would pull him down, is kind of the meaning of this word. Those detractors, I suppose, would be a good translation. So even though these people were trying to pull him down, he remained committed to his practice of ahimsa and dhritam astaya. He remained fixed, astaya, in his dhriti. Dhriti has several meanings. Here, kind of like courage or commitment, but here, sattvikim dhritim, a sattvika kind of dhriti, a sattvika kind of commitment or courage. And sattvika has to be distinguished because sometimes someone who's strongly committed, it's not always, you think of that commitment as being very saintly, very pious, very dharmic, very good. Not always. Have you ever met someone who's really stubborn? Someone who's really stubborn, they're committed. That's dhriti. That's another way of having this commitment, is just to be stubborn. So stubbornness is not a quality. I think you'd all agree with that. So his commitment was not mere stubbornness. And what that means, by the way, if we dig a little more deeply here, he endured all the mistreatment that he received in this village. How did he endure it? So generally, people endure it through, in ancient times, it was called Stoicism, which was an ancient Greek philosophy. You become stoic, or to use the American expression, you tough it out. You just cope the best you can. But notice, this bhikshu was not toughing it out. He was not a stoic. He was not practicing this ancient Greek philosophy of Stoicism. The fact is that he wasn't bothered or affected by all the mistreatment he received. It didn't affect him. Why? Enlightened. He wasn't threatened by any of it. So that's what's called here sattvikim dhritim. He was being enlightened. He didn't feel threatened, and he was effortlessly able to respond to the situation without anger, without recrimination, without retaliation. And how did he respond? Now the Bhikshu Gita begins. Dvija uvacha, Dvija uvacha. Dvija is twice born, actually referring to the Brahmana. Of course, once you become a sannyasi, you're no more a Dvija, but that's the style of the language here. So what did he say? He said, by the way, we now have the longer meter here, 11-syllable meter. Nayam jano me sukha dukkha hetuhu. Nayam jano me sukha dukkha hetuhu. Na devatatma graha karma kalaha. Na devatatma graha karma kalaha. Manah param karanamamananti. Manah param karanamamananti. Samsara chakram parivartayet yata. Samsara chakram parivartayet yata. Referring to all the people who abused him in his village, he says, Ayam janaha. That na ayam, we break the words apart. Ayam janaha, all these people in this village, na hetuhu, are not the cause. Sukha dukkha. It was sukha dukkha. For sukha and, actually that's a compound, sukha dukkha hetuhu. They are not the cause for happiness or suffering for me. The people of this village do not cause me happiness or misery. Of course, they caused him misery, but suppose instead in other villages, they would take him to, when he went to, we'll just add something to the story to make it a little bit more interesting. The prior village he went to, I'm making this up, you know that, right? The prior village he went to, he was received like a great saint. They took him to the temple, they washed his feet, they sat him down in a chair, they gave him flowers, and they did arati to him, and then they took him to somebody's home, and they fed him a luxurious meal, and then they put him in a comfortable bed and let him sleep. That's what happened in the previous village, not this one. This one was the opposite. So here what he's saying is that the jana, the people he encounters in life, are neither the cause for sukha or dukkha. Na, in the second verse, second line, na devata, nor are the gods the cause for sukha and dukkha. By the way, gods here is a reference to like laws of nature. Indra is a god of the lightning and storms. So, if he's walking from village to village, suppose it rains heavily, monsoon season. So that's possible. Or suppose the beautiful sun is out, Surya. Or suppose the beautiful sun is out and it's 45 degrees centigrade, not our Fahrenheit. Suppose he's baking in the sun. So subject to the laws of nature, and also na atma. There's something a little scholarly being taught in these first two lines. You might remember in a prior class we talked about tapa traya. Remember that? Tapa traya, the three causes of suffering. Tapa here means suffering. The three causes of suffering we said were adhibhautika, suffering caused by other creatures, other beings, other people. Some suffering is adhidaivika, caused by the gods, caused by nature, as we just discussed. And some of that suffering is adhyatmika, caused by yourself, by your own body, for example. And what he's doing here, remember, he was taught by a guru, he learned well, so he's actually referring to these three kinds of suffering. He says, first of all, na janaha. So janaha, people, there's no adhibhautika tapas. There's no suffering due to other people, nor na devata, nor suffering due to the gods. By the way, I'll skip a word. Graha, karma, kalaha. He gives a little bit more detail here. No suffering due to graha, the position of the planets, or due to karma, due to past karmas, and no suffering due to kala, the passage of time. All of this goes with adi daivaka, suffering due to the gods in a manner of speaking. And here the word atma, na atma. Here atma does not mean Satchidananda atma. It mostly means body. He says the suffering, he says there is no sukha or dukkha due to people. So there's no, which is adhibhautika, na devata, adidaivaka, and na atma, na adhyatma, not due to the body. So if there's no happiness or suffering from all these other sources, then why do most people experience this roller coaster, right? One day happy, one day not so happy. By the way, not one day, 1 hour, or even 1 minute. 1 minute happy and the next minute not so happy. So this is the roller coaster. By the way, if you were on a roller coaster and it took you an hour to go up and an hour to go down, that wouldn't be much fun, right? So rapid. So he says instead, mana param karanam. Amananti. Amananti. The wise ones say that manas, the mind, is the param karanam, the ultimate cause for what? Last line, samsara chakram. So the samsara chakra is that roller coaster. Usually samsara chakra, you think life to life to life. This life is enough. There's a chakra here. You go up and down, up and down. Any of you remember from a math class learning that the up and down, known as a sinusoidal function, is related to a circle? Remember trigonometry? So the circle is what gives rise to this up and down called sinusoidal function. Anyway, anyone remember that? I remember that. Anyway, of course, I remember all silly things. Vasanti complains, I don't remember a conversation from last week, but I remember all the Sanskrit and all the science and stuff. I have a funny brain. Anyway, so the wise ones say that the mind is the cause for samsara chakram, these ups and downs of life. It causes the samsara chakram parivartayet yat. It causes the samsara chakra parivartayet to rotate. It causes the samsara to go up and down, up and down. What is the cause for the ups and downs of life? Manaha. Manas param karanam. The mind is the ultimate cause. He's kind of paraphrasing here a very famous and profound statement. Long ago, we studied this Amrita Bindu Upanishad, which opens with this amazing statement. It says, Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha moksha yoho. This is such a brilliant statement, and the text opens with this statement. It says, Manushyanam, for people, manas eva, the mind alone, is the karanam, the cause. You can see how he's paraphrasing here. It's the cause, karanam, bandha moksha yoho, for bondage and for freedom. The mind alone is the cause for being bound to a life of suffering, or a life of ups and downs, or a life of moksha, a life of freedom. The mind alone is the cause. And this is one of the most important principles of any and all spiritual teachings. And here you can find the same teaching in many other traditions. You can find it certainly in Buddhism. You'll find this even not in mainstream religions. Among Christian mystics, you'll find the same message. Certainly among Sufis, Islamic mystics, you find the same teaching. The mind alone is the cause for this samsara chakra, for the ups and downs of life. And that's really, really good news, because how much control do you have over the world around you? A little bit, right? How much control do you have over your mind? Well, that's another issue. If you say a little bit, you're not meditating enough. But presumably, through meditation and other spiritual practices, you come to have considerable control over your mind. Whereas we don't have considerable control over the world around us, how much control do we have over the weather? The best we can do is bring out an umbrella or go inside a nice heated room like we're sitting. So we have no control over the weather, but we have considerable control over our minds. But the problem here now is how much control. I think most people find that they have some control over the mind, and perhaps not enough control. Remember, this bhikshu is enlightened, and he wants others who hear his song, this Bhikshu Gita, he wants others to become enlightened. So now he's going to address this problem of a mind that's partially controlled. In the next verse, he says, Mano gunan vaisrajate baliyas. Mano gunan vaisrajate baliyas. Tata chakarmani vilakshanani. Tata chakarmani vilakshanani. Shuklani krishnanyatalohitani. Shuklani krishnanyatalohitani. Tebhya savarna srijate bhavanti. Tebhya savarna srijate bhavanti. Sujayo, correct. Manaha, the mind. The mind, srijate. By the way, any grammarians here? Do you see my problem in my translation? Strong ideas. Baliyas is what gender? Neuter. So baliyas has to go to manas and not guna. I'm correcting the grammar here. I'm correcting the translation. Whose translation is it? Yeah. I make lots of mistakes. So here, and by the way, it doesn't make any difference. It's a manas, it is a mind that is baliyas, that is very strong, and that strong mind, srijate, creates gunan. And here, even the commentator makes it very clear. The gunas that are created by your mind, gunas, of course, sattva, rajas, and tamas, but specifically in the form of vrittis, mental events. Your mental events might be sattvika, might be rajasa, or might be tamasa. So these three kinds of mental events are created by your powerful mind. Tatahacha, and from those mental events, from those vrittis, what is srijate, bringing the verb down, what is created are karmani, actions. So thought precedes action, naturally. So you see something desirable, and then you take an action to go and get it. You see something undesirable, you take an action to avoid it. You see something that is neutral, you just sit there very contently. Sattva, rajas, tamas. Look at this. His analysis is very nice here. So you engage in different kind of actions, and these actions could be shuklani, white here means sattvika, or krishnani, ata, breaking the words apart. They could be, Krishna means black here, black represents tamasa, or they could be lohita, red. Red represents rajas. So when you have a rajasa thought, it leads to a rajasic action, right? You see something you want, go and get it. You see something you don't want, run away from it. This is rajas. Or you see something, you have a tamasic thought. What would be a tamasic thought? I think I'll stay in bed all day today. How's that? that would work. And that tamasic thought leads to tamasic action. You lay there in bed all day. Or suppose, notice the absence of both rajas and tamas leads to this perfect, pure state of sattva guna, state of perfection, state of balance. And when you have sattvika thoughts, you're just content. You're not driven to do any action. You're not driven to avoid any action. Notice a person who's laying in bed all day long is probably avoiding some responsibilities, right? So and this brings us back to one of our favorite topics, and that is conventional behavior is driven by raga and dvesha. That's it. So raga, chase after what you don't want, and here dvesha in a tamasic sense is just lay in bed so you don't have to deal with what you don't want. And on the other hand, a mind that is free from the compulsions of raga dvesha is sattvika. So, asantebhyaha, according to your thoughts, savarnaha, in accordance with those thoughts, srijate bhavanti, your actions arise. Your actions arise in accordance with your thoughts. So tamasic thoughts lead to tamasic actions, rajasic thoughts lead to rajasic actions, and of course sattvika thoughts too. Sattva means you act as required. You're not compelled to do anything, nor are you hesitant to do anything. You fulfill your swadharma, your responsibilities. Then, anihahatma manasa samihata, anihahatma manasi samihata, hiranmayo matsaka udvichaste, hiranmayo matsaka udvichaste, mana swalingam parigrihya kaman, mana swalingam parigrihya kaman, jushan nibaddho guna sangato sao, jushan nibaddho guna sangato sao. Starting the third line. Manaha. So here he's in this Gita, the bhikshu is teaching you. The bhikshu is teaching how to climb out of the samsara chakra, how to get off of that roller coaster. So the roller coaster of life, the samsara chakra, means you're stuck. You will continue to experience moments of happiness followed by moments of suffering again and again and again. It's up and down, around and around. How to extricate yourself from that samsara chakra. So he looks at the problem and then the solution. The problem comes here in the second half of the verse. The problem, not surprisingly, is manaha, the mind, right? Mana eva manushyanam karanam, that quote I gave before. The mind is itself the cause for bondage and liberation. So that manaha, what about the mind? Swalingam. The mind has a peculiar problem called identification. What is that? Actually, yeah, in the next verse he'll talk more about that identification. But the mind, by the way, when you say I am, when you say I am a doctor, I am an engineer, I am a husband, I am a wife, who speaks those words? Does the consciousness, which is your true nature, speak those words? Or does a body-mind complex speak those words? So those are the words of the individual jiva, the one who says, I'm a husband, wife, son, daughter, etc. This is identification, indicated here by the word swalinga. So the mind has this problem of identification. The mind takes itself to be a conscious being. The mind takes itself to be you, to just use more direct language. You've all attended enough Vedanta classes to understand that your essence is consciousness. Your essential nature, your true nature is consciousness. Specifically, the consciousness present in this experience, the consciousness that allows you to know what's happening right now in this experience. So we make a fundamental distinction. We must make this distinction between conscious observer and that which is observed. Conscious observer, most of you know the word Sakshi. Sakshi is a name for consciousness as the observer. So you, in your essential nature, are a conscious observer. Anything that's observed is different from the observer. So if you are the observer, anything observed is not you. This is Vedanta 101, but it's most important. 101 means the most important thing. Don't think it's basic. It's the most important thing, the foundation. Anything known to you is not you. The table is known to you, not you. The chair is known to you, not you. The arm of the chair is known, not you. This arm, nice. I like playing with this stuff. So here are two arms. Which one is mine? Neither. Neither. This arm belongs to the chair. This arm belongs to the body. I'm not joking. This is Vedanta. It's just a thing. It's a thing known to you. This arm is a thing that's known. It's part of his body, just as this arm is part of the chair. Fine. It serves a purpose. But known means not consciousness, not your essential nature. So, arm is known, therefore not I. Body is known, therefore not I. Prana, life force, is known. And prana means right now, do you feel tired or do you feel not so tired? That's prana, present in your experience. Anything known to you is not you. So your tiredness or your not tired, what is not tiredness? Your energy, how's that? Your tiredness or your energy is known to you, therefore not you. What about thoughts? Known to you. What about emotions? Wow, this is a big one. When you can recognize sadness in your mind and say, sadness belongs to my mind, not me. Look at that. This arm belongs to the chair, not me. This arm belongs to the body, not me. Sadness belongs to the mind, not me. And the importance of that can't be understated. If this arm has a problem, thank goodness it's not my problem. It is a problem, so let me take this arm to the doctor. And, oh, you know the bad joke, I warn you, this is one of the worst jokes you will ever hear. The guy goes, he's got a problem with the arm. He goes to the doctor and says, "Doctor, I have a problem with this arm." He says, "What is the problem?" He says, "Whenever I do this, it hurts." Doctor says, "Don't do that." What a bad joke. Anyway, if the chair is broken, take it to a repair person, get the chair fixed. If the arm has a problem, take it someplace and take it to a doctor, get it fixed. If the mind has a problem, seriously, if you can fix it on your own, that's fine. Some people are very handy. They can fix a chair. If you just have a cut on your arm, you can probably take care of that yourself. It's a minor wound, you can take care of it. If it's a broken arm, can you take care of that? No. A minor wound you can take care of. If there's just a little bit of sadness in your mind, can you take care of that? Certainly. If there's a huge problem in your mind, maybe you need some professional help. It all depends on the seriousness of the problem and your skill set. Some people are more skillful in handling psychological problems. Some people are less skillful and therefore require some help. But the point is, anything known to you is not you. That means the problems of anything known to you are not your problems. But the mind, manaha, swalingam, taking itself as you, as the real you. Again, the mind is known to you. The mind is not you. You are the one, just in common language. Do you have a mind or are you a mind? You have a mind, right? We have this expression, you can lose your mind. Who loses it? You. So you are the one who has a mind. You are the one who can lose a mind, figuratively speaking, just establishing what we've been saying. The mind is not you. The problems of the mind are not you, but manaha swalingam, because the mind says, no, I am you. That's the mind. We call it ego ahankara. There is a feature of the mind where the mind says, I'm not the mind, I am you. It's a fiction, and it is the cause for so much suffering. So this mind that takes itself as you, then parigrihya kaman, starts parigrihya, having grasped kaman. That mind, because it thinks it's you, starts being in control, and the control is driven by raga and dvesha. So the mind now starts forcing starts creating this compulsive behavior to chase after what you want and run away from what you don't want. So parigrihya kaman, seeking and grasping what is desirable, and further jushan, and enjoying. Sometimes you get what you want, sometimes you don't get what you want, sometimes you get what you don't want. Anything is possible. So jushan, having all these experiences, last word of the verse, asao, this person is nibbadaha, stuck on that samsara chakra. And that person is stuck. Why? Guna sangataha. Due to its sangha, its connection, its attachment to. Guna here really refers in general, just to the mind in general, to the world in general. It's all consisting of three gunas. So here's the problem. The problem is stated in the second half, and then we'll see the first half in just a moment that has a solution. Your mind has problems. My mind has problems. Every mind has problems. Is there such a thing as a mind with no problems? I've given you the example before. Is there such a thing as a body which is perfect? There's no perfection possible for the physical body. There's no perfection possible for the mind. But here's the problem. If the mind says, I am you, then you've got a huge problem. Better to say, that's a confusing statement, I admit. When you say, I am the mind. When sadness, in very simple terms, sadness is present in your mind, what do you say? I am sad. Who will say, sadness is present in my mind? Who will? I'll say that. I'll say it any day, because it's so obvious that sadness is present in the mind. But if it's not obvious, you're in trouble. Because when sadness comes in the mind, you will say, I am sad. We saw that word swalinga. That's a problem of identification. So the mind is understood as whatever happens in the mind happens to you, and you suffer. That is nibbadaha. This is being bound to a life of suffering. This is being stuck on a samsara chakra. This is like being stuck in the roller coaster. By the way, if you go to the amusement park and you get into the roller coaster, once it starts, can you get off? You're stuck. And it might be pretty unpleasant. I would find it extremely unpleasant. So anyway, you're stuck. How to get unstuck? First half of the verse. He says, Aniha Atma. Now this Atma is your true nature, consciousness. The consciousness by which the sadness in your mind is known. The consciousness by which the pain in your arm is known. And that consciousness is aniha, has no desires, is not driven by raga dvesha, it's not driven to get anything, it's not driven to get away from anything. All these compulsions belong to your mind. Compulsivity is a mental trait. Consciousness, your true nature, has no compulsivity. In fact, you know, if I ask you, are you a compulsive person or not, that's known to you because of consciousness, which is not compulsive. Compulsivity or the absence of compulsivity are mental traits. Here, Atma has no compulsivity whatsoever. It is just pure consciousness, and it manasa samihata. It comes along with the mind. It's associated with the mind. How is it associated with the mind? We used the word before, sakshi. In fact, the next line talks about the relationship between consciousness and your mind. And 3 adjectives in a second line. First is your Atma. All these are describing Atma. Atma is hiranmayaha, literally made of gold, but no one's going to translate it like that. It's shining. That's conscious. It is the revealer of activities in your mind. It is also matsakaha. Matsaka means literally my friend. With relationship to the mind, consciousness makes your mind work. It's a funny question. If you were it's easy. If you're unconscious, what do you think about? At night, in dreamless sleep, what do you think about? Do you worry about what you have to do tomorrow? You don't think anything. The mind depends on consciousness for its function. That's what this word matsaka, literally it means my friend, but what it suggests is that which enlivens the mind. So Atma, consciousness, is hiranmayaha, that which reveals the mind. It is matsaka, it enlivens the mind, and udvichaste. That ud is nice. Vichaste is to look clearly is vichaste. Ut means up. To look from above. To look down, to look from above. This is used to describe sakshi. And sakshi, consciousness, looking down from above. It's a figurative usage. Don't think that there's up or down with regard to consciousness. But it creates that sense of separation. To look from above, or in some meditation sessions where we've done the sakshi bhava, we've used the idea to look from outside. Suppose you could look from above, look from outside at your own mind. This is what the bhikshu is describing here. To gain some healthy detachment from your mind so that you can look at it from outside. And here's what that means. Your mind, like my mind, has some problems. Who are you with reference to the problems of your mind? Usually, I, as a conscious being, I am intimately associated with my mind and its problems. This represents ordinary experience, common experience, which is why when the mind is sad, and that sadness is intertwined, as it were, with consciousness, naturally you're going to feel like that sadness affects you. And that's why you say, I feel sad. But suppose we can, by the way, this is another good representation of bondage. Look at this, how tightly intertwined the consciousness and the mind are. Suppose we can kind of relax this and even recognize that, wait a minute, sadness is known to me, happiness is known to me. Now let's take it a step further. Sadness is a property of the mind. I am the observer of the mind. That reflection creates more distance between you and the mind. I'll do that again. Sadness belongs to the mind. I am the observer of the mind. Since I am the observer of the mind, I am separate from the mind and not affected by the sadness. This kind of reflection or contemplation creates more, we say more space, but space not in a physical sense, space in, when we use the American term, give me some space, that one. So give me some space doesn't mean more distance between you and me. It has more of this sense, and that is these teachings of Vedanta help you. Death grip is the word that comes to mind. Death grip in the sense that it keeps you in this state of bondage. It keeps you in a state of suffering. We have to learn, with the help of these teachings, how to release that death grip and come to a point of healthy distance, a healthy detachment. Healthy detachment, unhealthy detachment means I don't care about the mind. That's unhealthy detachment. I do care, but that mind is not me. I am different from the mind. I am separate from the mind. Sadness and happiness belong to the mind, not me. The happiness and sadness don't affect me. This division, the best term I can come up with is healthy detachment. Creating that, my guru used a very typical Indo-English expression, which I've never heard used in America. He called it thumb space. Thumb space? That's what he called it. Thumb space. I've never heard that expression except from him. So in his South Indian village, that's in English, that's apparently the term that they use. It means a little bit of space. And that's what he taught. And instead of using thumb space, I'm calling it healthy detachment. So here's the point, and what the bhikshu is teaching us here. When you can gain this healthy detachment through the teachings of Vedanta, you will then know with more and more clarity that the pain in your arm belongs to the arm, The sadness in your mind belongs to the mind. But further, you'll know that the pain in the arm doesn't directly affect consciousness, which is your true nature. Distance, separate. So the pain in the arm definitely affects the body-mind complex, but doesn't affect consciousness. The sadness in the mind absolutely affects the mind, but doesn't affect consciousness. Sakshi, the one which udvichashte, looks down from above, so to speak, looks from a distance to create this inner distance, creates inner freedom. So that when sadness is present in the mind, imagine you will come to this point where one day somebody will say, "How are you doing?" And they'll be very surprised when they say, "How are you doing today?" And you say, "I'm fine, but there's a little sadness in my mind." You will say that. And what a difference it is when you can say that. I'm okay, but there's some sadness in my mind. It's just a fact. It's a situation. This is what the bhikshu is teaching us in this Bhikshu Gita. This is what all of Vedanta teaches us. And this is where the freedom comes from. This is how you get free from that samsara chakra. This is how you get out of that roller coaster through this healthy detachment. And that's a good place to conclude. We'll continue. There's three more verses of the Bhikshu Gita. We'll see in the next class, and some more verses will follow that. Some important announcements. Tomorrow, our Vedanta class meets at 10 o'clock. We've just started a new chapter, and it's the most important chapter of the text, Upadesha Sahasri, Shankara's famous text. So, and the reason I'm bringing this to your attention is every chapter is independent. If you would like to join this class or rejoin this class, this is a good time to do so. We've just begun this new chapter. This would be a good time to come to join or to rejoin this Sunday class. Of course, there'll be a satsang after class. And the other very important announcement, of course, is with regard to New Year's Day. I hope you have a very happy and safe New Year's Eve, and then New Year's Day. Please come and join us at 11 o'clock. We'll have very simple, brief puja, some chanting, and I'll have a very helpful, I hope it'll be a very helpful message to share with you at that time. So please come and join us, and we'll conclude with our prayers. Om Gananahan Tva Ganapatigam Avamahe Kaving Gavinam Upamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspataha Nashranvan Utabasira Sadhanam Om Mahaganapataye Namaha Ishvaro Gururhatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityor ma amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat.